G'day watchers, welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I am featuring the first piece I've had from this company, Praesidus, which I've never had before, but they seem to be a company who are based in America, or at least the pieces are assembled in the USA with imported parts, including a Swiss-made movement in this particular watch here. Now, their MO seems to be reviving vintage watches, particularly military World War II type pieces, and that comprises most of their collection. I know some very nice-looking vintage-inspired pieces. However, the piece I picked is the one that kind of stood out to me. So thank you to Praesidus for being willing to collaborate on this particular review. Now, this packaging is probably as basic and as recyclable as I have seen, and it's just a little slip case here, and in here is where the watch would sit, but I've actually hasn't put it in because even if I had the watch and it's right here, even if I had it sitting in there with the bracelet completely looped out and with the case sitting flat, the case actually still is a little bit thick for that, and then when the watch came, the lid was actually pressing on the actual watch. So that is a little bit of a negative, but this is completely recyclable cardboard, and I'll just show you what's in here. But the only thing really of interest is their, I guess you might call it the warranty card, which is a dog tag, which is kind of cool. That's a QR code there, and that's actually the warranty card of this watch. Okay, so enough about that, and let's just move on and show you this particular watch in closer detail here. So what I have in hand is the Praesidus A-11 Type 44. This one is the Patina version. They have the kind of normal, fresh mint white version, but I think this is the one that really stood out as the one I would like to review. Now, this watch is a larger size, 38mm size. It does come in a 32mm size, which is very much like the original World War II spec watch. But I think for modern style, I preferred this one, 38. 32 would be interesting, but I think for my preferences, I wouldn't certainly wear that day to day. In terms of asking price, this is hefty, I would say, $595 USD on this metal bracelet. If you get it on leather or one of the straps, is slightly cheaper, but it is actually it's up there in terms of $595 USD. Perhaps the sales would happen now and then. All right, so as I usually do, let's talk about movement first up. In here is the Swiss Soprod P024 movement, or PO24. It is an 2824-2 base, the ETA base that it is taken from, the structure, the engineering and all that. So it's not completely original. It's one of those ETA clones. Specs down the left of screen there. Now, some places have said this is 23 joules. I'm not entirely sure. Caliber Corner has it as 25. So I haven't been 100% able to confirm that. Let me know if you know better about this manual wind and hacking movement. The rate of accuracy, of course, is unknown in a lot of these ETA clones, but in use, this has been excellent. This has been running about +2 seconds per day, so it's an excellently regulated piece that they've sent to me. Okay, moving on to case then. So this is a lot of vintage callbacks, even though it is larger than the original. It's actually a small 38mm stainless steel case, 13.5 thick, including that domed glass there. Lug width is only 20mm, and the lugs are drilled, which is kind of cool. Like that little touch they put in there. And the lug-to-lug distance between my thumbs only 45mm. So a very, very handleable watch, and it would sit on most wrists. Pretty much every guy I know, you would be able to carry this watch quite easily. Maybe even my teenage 13-year-old son today, actually. The overall weight on this bond clip bracelet, 80 grams. It would be lighter, of course, if you chose a strap. In terms of finishing, actually very simple. Right? It is actually full polish. Right? Sides, full polish, lugs, all that full polish. It does have this interesting coin edge bezel that also is mirrored on the bottom here. So coin edge, I guess, bottom bevel as well as the top bevel, or the bezel, if you will, here. So that's kind of nice little vintage callback that they have there. That's also taken very much from the original design of the A-11. So with that polished screw down case back there and a push crown, that's a plain crown there, that's only push in, it winds at the 0 position there, not a screw down, but they have actually provided 10 atmospheres of water resistance, so 10 ATM, 100 meters water resistance, giving you that everyday functionality for this field watch. Right, moving on to the dial then. So what we have here is really quite a simple matte black dial. The details are all printed, but the interesting thing is that everything is Lume printed, superluminova. So the 12 indices, the chapter ring, as well as the 10-minute markings, all of that glows in the dark. In terms of the hands, really it's just full Lume leaf main hands. There's no polish element that you can see here. It's just a full Lume hand here, and it's got a polish needle point for the seconds here. And I'll put a Lume shot, of course, here for you guys to see how all this glows nicely in the dark. It does glow nearly all the way through the night, I want to say, and not 100%, but for functionality, it's perfectly good in almost all situations. Okay, moving on to the crystal or the glass then. So what we have here is a double-domed acrylic glass here with an anti-reflective treatment. I think that's really just on the inside. You can see it still gives some reflection. Somehow this, I think, doesn't detract from this particular watch here. It does give it some, I feel, some character that, there is light play on this glass. Slight, distortion on the edges here, even though it's double domed, as you can see there. And that's really quite nice. I really like crystals that give some distortion, some play on the dial, as this one does. Okay, moving on to the bracelet here, just a simple bond clip style bracelet. It just loops around here, and it's got a push button release here. This is very much just a polished finish here, nothing much more complicated than that. I've just featured this in one other watch recently. That was a Merkur. So this is actually only the second watch I've had with this bond clip style bracelet. Okay, so let's just put it on the wrist here, if I can find a spot I like, which is actually nearly on the minimum setting. There's only 3 more settings here. You've got to kind of loop it around and pull it to the point that you want. And so you can take a much larger wrist than mine. Probably won't take a much smaller wrist, I must say, the way that they've designed this. And there we have it, the Praesidus A-11 Type 44 on my wrist. My wrist is 17 centimeters, and in terms of circumference, and this fits very, very well. As I say, just about every single guy I've ever met will carry this absolutely fine because of the vintage aesthetics. Only 45 from lug to lug, and remember, only 13.5 millimeters tall. Okay, so that's not necessarily the thinnest watch, but because of the construction, because it's broken up by various elements and then that glass, actually it wears perfectly fine, even with that, that thickness that you can see sticking out there. Okay, and that's how that looks. All right, so guys, that's the entire description of this watch. Just gonna take that off the wrist there. Now, what have I therefore enjoyed about this? What do I like about this piece? Look, I think it's a fairly unique take on reproducing a relatively attractive American World War II piece. This is really what this is, inspired by, and that's what the brand seems to be doing a lot of. I think the glass is gorgeous. I really like, acrylic pieces like this. The monochrome Patina matte dial, really very simple, but somehow it gets away to it. It's a simple beauty, it's not necessarily coming across as cheap. It really is just unpretentious, and I feel, about this particular dial, and a very practical type of bracelet. There's all these features that call back to the original. I think it's got heavy vintage inspired themes, but modern sensibilities. You're getting a stainless steel case rather than, I think it was bronze with chrome originally. You're getting 38 millimeter in size rather than the smaller 32, and a much better Swiss made movement in this one, ETA base very reliable, of course, and as I mentioned earlier, very accurately regulated on this example, and superluminova rather than radium, which of course has been banned for many decades now. The 38mm size, I think, with the lightness, with this, lugs, a pleasure to wear. It has been an absolute pleasure to have this on the wrist. It's light enough to forget about it, and it doesn't call attention to itself. Nobody's actually really stopped me to look at this watch, but sometimes that suits perfectly. You don't always want a watch that is calling attention to your wrists, and it has been a joy to have this, honestly. But, are there weaknesses? That there are. The overall construction, I would say, it feels a little bit light in hand. It feels like there is, perhaps a lack of material, but is that just because of the vintage proportions? I would say the bracelet particularly, has a very light construction feel to it, and light sometimes can be just one step away from cheap. I think this is not too bad, but I feel that it can be a little bit more robust in its construction to, up the whole package to the next level. Perhaps some would feel that, because this is a vintage callback, a lot of this are a deliberate style decision rather than a cost decision. But, feeling this in hand, you do wonder whether cost considerations came into it. Overall, the $595 US MSRP will give some of you pause. Will give many people pause because, $595, you used to be able to get a very robust dive style construction watch, like Steinhardt. I don't know whether they still do that, but you used to be able to get something like that. But now, that's the asking price for this particular piece. And a lot of people probably would give a pass at that price, but may pick it up if there is a substantial sale. I think this got a lot of good points, but really, it's not a complicated watch, nor is it an original design. So a lot, I think, would wonder at that MSRP. But let me know your thoughts. I'd like to hear your thoughts about this piece, about Praesidus as a band. If you've had any of their watches, I would like to hear your experiences and your thoughts. So guys, there you go. That's my review of the Praesidus A-11 Type 44. Thank you again for joining me. As always, I'll see you guys next time.